Bobby Fischer almost never allowed weaknesses in his position. Yet here, he did the opposite. In this game against Spassky, from the famous 1972 World Championship match, he deliberately created targets in his own camp. Why he did that? We'll see. This is Fischer misusing his own weaknesses. So let's look at this game where Spassky was white and Fischer was black. So the game started with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, the Nims or Indian defense, knight f3, then c5, challenging the center. Then e3 was played, knight c6, normal development. Then bishop d3 was played. Now there are some options. One of them is d5, another is c takes d4, and then try to play d5. Castle is also there, and also the move that Fischer played. So in this position, he actually played the move bishop takes c3. So one of the ideas of Nimzo Indian is giving up the bishop for the knight and trying to ruin white's pawn structure. In most cases, black waits for white to play a3, but in this case, Fischer is like, all right, I want to go for the imbalance and I want to create weaknesses in Spassky's position, so I'll do it even before a3 is played. So b takes c3. So now we have to remember that the dark square bishop is gone. So and opponent gets the double bishop advantage. So what Fischer does? He plays the move d6. So basically his plan is that he will try to keep the important pawns of his on dark squares. So Spassky would not be in a position to take advantage of those dark squares because that's the bishop that Fischer does not have. So then in this position, Spassky played e4. So he's bringing another pawn in the center. Fischer, as I mentioned a moment earlier, he's sticking to his strategy of bringing those important pawns on dark squares so that dark square bishop of Spassky won't get as active. Then d5 gets played, just knight e7. Now in this position, Spassky plays the move knight h4. Now, what is he trying to do? Is he planning to play something like knight f5? Is he planning to play queen f3 and then maybe something like that? Knight f5 might not be the best idea because capture this and there might be e4 and the f5 pawn might fall. Queen f3 may be possible, but then also be thinking that even after knight f5, what is white achieving that that makes knight h4 so special? Knight f5 was not the idea. So we have to remember that Spassky has the double bishop advantage, but the center is stable. The position is more on the close side. So if he wants to put pressure on Fischer, then he has to open the position. And to open the position, he has to go for the pawn break. And by playing knight h4, he's planning to play f4. He's planning to target Fischer's center. He wants to play f takes c5. He wants to open this file, maybe even go for some sacrifice and then keep the pressure. So the idea of knight h4 is to try and push the f pawn at some point. So in this position, Fischer played the move h6. So he's planning to play g5 at some point. So yes, that would make his king side weak, but he has not castled there. And as I mentioned earlier, the position is a bit more on the close side, so it will not be that easy for Spassky to take advantage of it. Now, it seems like, yeah, f4 has been stopped because e takes f4, bishop takes f4, and then g5 is coming actually. So that's why f4 cannot be played. But Spassky went for it anyways. So it might seem like, wait, what? Why is he sacrificing a pawn? Or is he planning to sacrifice a piece? So his plan in this position was that if e takes f4 is played, then after bishop takes f4, g5, then there is this very nice move, e5 actually, because if capture, then this would hang, and if something like knight g4, then there is e6, pressure over here, that king is in the center, and it's not that great position. So yeah, Spassky was ready to sacrifice material to keep the activity. So in this position, Fischer played the move that created weaknesses in his position. But as I had mentioned earlier, Spassky did not have a way to take advantage of it. So weaknesses are only weaknesses if they can be exploited. And in this position, Fischer played the move knight g6. What an excellent move. At first, it might seem like, okay, what's so special about the move actually? Just, so see, if the knight goes somewhere here now, this pawn can be captured easily. So if knight f5 or knight f3, if knight f5 also just bishop takes f5 and then this pawn can be captured. Knight f3 also this pawn can be captured. So Spassky is more or less forced to capture this knight. But all right, what's so bad about it? Now after f takes e6, these are the double pawns, and so after f takes e5, so this is what was played by Spassky, and after d takes e5, let's look at how the position has changed. Isolated pawn for Fischer, then a protected pass pawn for Spassky. These double pawns for Fischer, double bishop advantage for Spassky. It just seems like what is going on? How is this whole thing helpful for Fischer? He created isolated pawn for himself on e5. He gave this protected pass pawn on d5, and then he has made the king side structure also weak. What is going on? So let's try to understand this in a bit more depth. I have one question for you. How will you activate this bishop? Will you play bishop b2? Blocked by the pawn. You can't even push the pawns like this. Will you play bishop a3 and attack this? Just b6, then what will that bishop do? Will you play bishop e3 and attack this? But then after b6, then what? Maybe you will play bishop e3, bishop f2 and bishop h4 trying to do something over here. But then g5 will be played and that bishop will be restricted. Maybe you will play bishop e3, bishop f2, bishop g3 and put pressure on this pawn. But then there might be queen e7 ideas. Then of course black would have castled by that time, so rook e8 might also happen. Knight d7 also might happen. So this is what Fischer recognized, that yes, he has weaknesses in his position, but Spassky does not have enough resources to take advantage of it. We talked about the dark square bishop. Black square bishop is already restricted because of these pawns. So that's what Fischer saw when he played the move knight g6. And how Fischer plays from here, we'll see. So then bishop e3 was played. Of course, Fischer is like, all right, I'll play b6 and then I'll just defend the pawn and I'll continue. Now, before we see the next part of the game, so I want to discuss something with you. So I run a platform, chessneurons.com, and there we don't overwhelm you with endless computer generated tactics. Instead, we provide carefully chosen positional puzzles by me, each with detailed explanation, again by me, that teaches you how grandmasters actually think. So please check chessneurons.com and avail the 7-day free trial and increase your knowledge. So Fischer played the move b6, defending this pawn, and Spassky castled. Fischer also castled, and Spassky played a4. He's planning to play a5 and trying to open the queen side. Fischer was not going to allow that. He played a5. Now some of you would be thinking that, wait, has the b6 pawn not get weaker? Yeah, it has gotten weaker, but Fischer has enough resources to deal with it. So Spassky played the move rook b1 in this position. So one of the potential ideas of Spassky could be to make an Alekhine's gun. So basically maybe play rook b3, then rook f2, then rook b2, then queen b1, and then try to do something. Sometimes even if knight d7 is there, then even sacrifice, actually exchange sacrifice to try and keep the position open. So Fischer was like, I don't want to allow any of that. So he played the move bishop d7. Wait, how does it stop this Alekhine's gun idea? See, If you keep the queen in front, it won't be helpful because rook b8 and of course queen takes b6 is not going to happen. So you need the queen to be on b2 or b1, ideally b1. And you need the rook to be on b3 and another rook either on b1 or b2. But the thing in this position is that now rook b3. So if the tripling happens somehow, even before Spassky is able to execute that, the a4 pawn will fall. So that's why bishop d7 was played, reminding Spassky that you have weaknesses in your position as well. So Spassky played rook b2, rook b8 was played. Then in this position, Spassky abandoned the idea of putting pressure on the queen side. So he just brought the rook on the king side. Then Fischer just improved the queen's position with queen e7. Now g5. All the pawns on dark squares. Look at Fischer's pawns. He does not have the dark square bishop. But what he does, he puts the pawns there. Then he restricts the dark square bishop. So bishop d2. So now he plays queen e8. What's the plan? To try to bring the queen to g6. So he's slowly increasing the pressure on the king side. Queen d3 was played. Knight h5. He's trying to play something like knight f4. Now in this position, g3 can be played by Spassky, but what would happen is that would weaken his light squares around the king. At some point, bishop h3 might also happen. So yeah, not an easy decision to make. So then rook takes f8, rook takes f8. So Spassky decides that, okay, let's try and exchange some pieces. So here I think he should have played g3. Yes, it's an unpleasant position for him to play because the position is closed. The knight can maneuver around. There is some pressure on the king side. There is some pressure on the queen side. But the game goes on actually. So he played the move bishop d1, allowing that knight to get to f4. Now he should have played something like queen e3 or queen f3. And as I mentioned earlier, so an unpleasant position for him to play because of his restricted pieces and Fischer's activity. But still nothing that he can't defend. Fischer, the game would go on for long and yeah, maybe Fischer would be able to make the breakthrough, maybe not. But still, it's not like the game is over or anything. But the thing is that when you're under such a pressure, then even for players like Spassky, so it's it's difficult to play, and then blunders happen. So queen c2, the persistent pressure of Fischer after that knight g6 move has finally paid off because Spassky has blundered. And in this position, Fischer played the move bishop takes a4, and yeah, actually Spassky resigned. The point is that if queen takes a4, then queen takes e4 is coming. This is under pressure. This is under pressure, and it's just lost. So an extremely instructive game of Fischer where he created weaknesses in his own position, and those weaknesses actually helped him in winning the game because he knew that his opponent does not have enough resources to take advantage of those weaknesses.